The saying less is more has become synonymous with refined design. But what if this design ethos is paired up with a multitude of various elements? Well, then you may have just found yourself in a home that ticks all the boxes. In today's episode of Finest Homes, we're visiting a house designed by Leon van der Westhuizen of Anthrop Architects. It's a home that celebrates South African architecture by mixing materials and making the most of the exquisite Highveld weather. So Leon, we've barely seen the rest of the home, and already you can see multiple facets that make this a finest home. Can you talk to us about some of the exterior elements and perhaps what was included in the brief?
The brief called for, a typical South African home with natural finishes. Hence, you see things like the off-shutter concrete, exposed face brick. And another key element was that the client asked for a single-story dwelling on a slopey site, so it called for some specific design solutions to resolve that. But I think in this instance, with the client also being a car enthusiast, it just led me to this idea of the garages down below and sort of the rest of the house on top of that, and that sort of eased out or leveled out the design.
Well, I love how the concrete really creates strong lines, but I also see how you've incorporated other materials like the exposed brickwork and the stonework. Can you talk through how this all creates such a beautiful ensemble?
Yeah, I think just the interesting thing, for instance, the stone cladding that you see all throughout the house it was actually excavated on this actual stand, which is unique, and we convinced the client to use that, and that's part of the finer details that really make it an interesting home, and it's a talking point. And then obviously the concrete finishes that you see, it's something that needs to be managed during the construction process. And you really need to give it attention and resolve the detailing to make it look the way it does.
Could you describe this design in any particular way?
Like I mentioned, I think this for me and what our practice does in general is we try to design houses with or buildings for that matter with a South African sort of tectonic, and that basically just means designing structures that's robust and durable and makes use of the materials that we generally get in our industry: concrete, steel, timber, stone cladding, those sort of things.
And I suppose the challenge there is making these hard materials turn into a comfortable home environment.
Now that's definitely lots of clients, when you meet them the first time, they'll ask, I want glass and steel and timber and all these things, but it's how you put that together that ultimately creates the home and the warmth, like you say. So the use of the timber and where you apply those as well. You need to think of the durability of the material, etc. So we designed the garages to be your first point of contact, and that sort of elevated the rest of the house to go on top, and then you'll see now it created this very nice opportunity to create this very dramatic entrance. We sort of walk underneath the house and then up into this double volume courtyard entrance space, and it was just I think the slope and the brief from the client prompted that, and it all just fell together.
Well, I can't wait to see the great work that you've done in the inside, so shall we head in?
Thanks, Tumelo. Let's go. Let's go and have a look.
The mixed material facade of the modern home gives way to a walkway that gently guides visitors up an atrium-style stairway where one is welcomed by an open living space. As we make our way to the patio, the U-shaped layout reveals itself as a sheltered entertainer's haven. Wow, Leon, that is one awesome entrance, and I love the way you navigate your way up and into this beautiful space.
Yeah, I think it was basically a result of, the planning with a single sort of courtyard level and all the living spaces living out into this courtyard. And that, the fact that it's on one level, created that void for us to sort of come in. Yeah, and I guess the drama, it's good to have a bit of drama when you arrive.
Absolutely. And presumably that's what inspires the navigation or layout of the home. Can you talk us through it?
Yeah, so you arrive through this atrium entrance and then you walk into this, this amazing courtyard space which is basically orientated north, which is important, for climatic reasons. And everything is centered around this, the pool, the deck area, which is nice and sunny in winter. Entertainment these days, it's a big part of the modern home and modern living. So the idea was to move, to have a more sort of intimate area to the north, all the bedrooms overlooking that, part of the property. And then, this being the heart of the house, all the entertainment and main living areas opening up. Essentially up here, the courtyard plays a massive role. And once you start opening doors, you start to connect the different wings and the different spaces. So this plays a big role, and it was a big generator for the flow of the rest of the house.
And obviously separated by this beautiful pool, and it's very hard to miss that amazing sculpture. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think again, it's a result of a client that's sort of became very involved with the design process, which is what you typically want. We always said we wanted to do something special with a pool in that area, and we ended up commissioning one of the contractors on site, a real artisan, to do the sculpture, and yeah, I think it worked well.
So Leon, what are some of your standout architectural features?
Roofs are always something that's sort of, it's almost like an afterthought, but what we specifically wanted to do with this design was to create a roof that floats, and by doing that, bring in additional sunlight into the house. So I'd say that's, with this house specifically, a feature that I really paid a lot of attention to.
Speaking of floating, I mean, those doors are awesome. What a different way of playing around with what is otherwise conventional.
I think what's interesting about that is it's, we initially designed sliding doors, and then the client, Edgy, came up and he said, nah, guys, let's be a bit more exciting. So again, it's a result of a client just being sort of, pushing the envelope a bit. So yeah, pretty cool.
So what would you say are some of the key elements in the interior design?
We use a lot of natural materials, so inevitably those materials sort of they flow from the exterior to the interior. The off-shutter concrete ceilings go all the way through, so it's a big feature. So you need to add things that's going to soften it up a bit as you go along. So subtle light greys and things is something that I'm personally very fond of, and luckily this client also bought into that. And then the pallets of timber, the stone cladding bring in warmth, and then I think important, the play of light, that plays a big role in terms of the interior feel. Over here we've got certain pause areas with nice pendants, but again, in the with the way that we designed the roof, I think that lends itself to a possibility of these very sort of formalized pendants in the space, and it just adds to the dynamic of that space, seeing that you add a bit of volume to work with, and that's also where you get a bit more warmth into the house with the warm white lighting. Works well.
For someone who's trying to achieve this look, what would you call it? What sort of look and feel have we achieved in this home?
For me, it's just something, it's a easy living, let's call it that. It's materials that you could see kids running around, and you don't have to be scared about them, scratching something or scratching the floor. It's robust. It's robust finishes that's easy living and warm, keeping in mind the very raw finishes that we use.
Well, this is ultimately in an estate, but you still feel so close to the natural environment. How did you achieve this?
again, I think the courtyard design played a big role. You know, it's opening up towards the nature reserve, which is a key part of the estate, like you mentioned. So, and that was also key for the client, was to sort of almost have this idea where you know, right in the reserve, you can see the wildlife walking past, and you actually do on a good day. So, yeah, all those things came together.
And I mean, when you do reach this level, you finally get to see the beautiful view. What are the key considerations you had to make to ensure that you got that?
So where, you know, this courtyard's facing north, but the view is directly west onto the dam. So we had to be careful, you know, not to have the house heat up too much, you know, when you do want to do a bit of a sundowner. So we had to, you know, incorporate strategic louvers and, you know, sort of, you know, shading devices that ultimately also inform the tectonic of the house.
Well, I think it's a perfect balance and a job well done to you.
Thank you, Tumelo. Appreciate it.
After the break, we delve into the interior of this home and unpack how colour can add another layer to a neutral colour scheme. In today's episode of Finest Homes, we're visiting a modern family home designed by Leon van der Westhuizen of Anthrop Architects. The house appears layered thanks to a clever design feature where the garages are on the ground level and the rest of the house sits on top. This creates shelter from the western sun while the house opens up to the north. With the exterior enjoying materials like stonework, off-cast concrete, bag-wash brickwork and plastered walls, keeping the interior contained and minimal, it brings out the best in Leon's architectural design. The interior scheme was brought to life by Anthrop Architects and the homeowners, resulting in a space that will age gracefully. Over time, the homeowners can add or change decorative items, allowing the house to develop with the family's taste and needs. The kitchen, dining and lounge enjoy a muted palette of greys, while the homeowners have introduced pops of colour throughout the house. This theme of neutrals makes its way through the passage that connects the living area with the wing that houses the bedrooms. In the main bedroom, there's a sense of calmness and serenity thanks to the moody colours and dark cabinetry. Pops of colour lift the space and really complement the palette. The bathroom, with its outdoor shower, has the added benefit of enjoying views overlooking the surrounding nature reserve.